Hi everyone, welcome to Meditation with Annemarie. This is part 8 of my 21-part series on coping with change using your inner power. So today I'm going to be drawing our 8th power for us to practice to help us cope better with all the changes that, change happens all the time. But the law of change is certainly asserting itself at the present moment, and globally everyone is being affected in some way. So using our inner strengths helps us cope better as to how we respond to all the change that's going on around us and how we need to adapt and change accordingly so that we don't get so affected in a negative way about it. So the 21 powers are based on my book, Will to Wonder, Principles on the Loss and Recovery of Power, and the book is based on our teachings as Brahma Kumaris. So remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you like the video, remember to like and comment. The feedback is always helpful, and I appreciate your support. So let's start with drawing a power. So let's see which power we're going to be practicing for the next couple of weeks. Another one of our master powers, power to judge. So the power to judge is the complete opposite to being judgmental. So the power to judge is the ability to make clear, rational decisions and choices. I judge the accuracy of my own thoughts with my own words and my own actions, not those of others. And I weigh up what others say with what they do before accepting, but without judging. Bit of a tricky one, this one. So I am the scales. I stay in balance by accurately measuring my walk with my talk. So the supporting virtues that will help me strengthen my power to judge is discernment. Use my power to discern between authenticity and falsehood. To remain balanced and equal in my energy that I'm putting out there, my vibration. Faith, having that faith, not blind faith, but just having that innate knowing that I am safe, that I am protected, which helps me strengthen my power to judge. And of course, detachment, practicing silence, and also letting go. So another beautiful power. So let's start the meditation. Starting just with a breath to just bring yourself to the present moment, giving yourself permission to just unplug from the external world just for a little while. You may choose to leave your eyes open or close them, that's fine. Either way, you will benefit. If you choose to leave your eyes open, simply focus on a spot in front of you and gently rest your gaze there. This is a wonderful practice for being able to turn inward no matter where we are, so that we can remain calm no matter where we are. So allowing that breath to now allow you to journey inward and just turn into your silent space within your heart. And all I want you to do is just check in on yourself. How are you going? And listen to what your inner voice is trying to tell you. If you've been disconnected from your internal world for quite some time, it may take a little bit of practice for you to hear what your inner voice is trying to tell you. But your inner guidance is always there, ready to jump in. But it's up to you to listen, to pay attention, to be open to change, and to accept what I must do with love, with cooperation, with self-respect. So just checking in on yourself, going in a little deeper, and just checking in on the thoughts that you've been creating for yourself. Being mindful of the fact that you are the creator of your own thoughts. And thought is energy. And given enough thought, that energy will make its way into the world. So to judge the accuracy of your own thoughts takes a little bit of practice, as we may have been deceiving ourselves for a little while. As we slowly return into truth, to our essence of peace. So be gentle with yourself as you're finding new ways to live, to respond, as you find new creative ways of being by simply changing the way that you think. And to ensure that whatever you thought you are creating, that your words and your actions match the thoughts that you're creating. That there's equality in your thoughts, words and actions. If they don't match, then I need to turn inward more and check where that imbalance may be. To hang on to the imbalance, not to focus on the imbalance, but simply to recognize it as a means to release it. So checking in allows you to check the accuracy, the balance of your own thoughts, words and actions, which is an area where we often fall down and sabotage ourselves unconsciously. Because we may be thinking one thing, but we end up compulsively doing something else. So here's a chance for you to strengthen that power to judge, so that you can bring more equality, not duality, into your being, into your doing. And the more rational, the more you are able to control the quality and the quantity of your own thoughts, so will be your life. So taking a breath and coming back, feeling a little bit fuller, feeling a little bit clearer, feeling a little bit more in control of the self. Come back to the here and now and simply get on with your day. So the power to judge is about having good judgment, not to sit in judgment of others or of myself. If I do that, then my power to judge is weak. So don't misunderstand the difference here. It's very important to recognize that if I sit in judgment of myself or of others, I need to apply the brake and turn inward and check in on myself. If I'm being triggered by others and I start blaming and start pointing the finger again externally, I need to apply that brake and turn it back in and check in with myself, because there will be some kind of hurt from the past, some kind of unhealed area in your life that is making you sit in judgment. And because you haven't healed that area, and because your power to judge is weak, that's when we sit in judgment of others. So understanding our power to judge means to recognize and to focus and work on the accuracy of my own thoughts, words, and actions, not those of others. When I use my energy on checking in on myself, to check in that I'm balanced within myself, that I'm steady because I am doing as I say, then I have no need to sit in judgment of others, and I certainly have no need in beating myself up. But it takes courage to practice this, because our conditioning is to look outside of ourselves, both for validation and expectation, but with that comes disappointment, and with that comes blame and judgment. So the more I use my energy and turn inward and just check the scales of my own mind to make sure that the thoughts that I'm creating, they're the words and the actions that I'm putting behind it, not the other way around. I don't want to be thinking one thing but behaving compulsively in another way, because that clearly will tell me that my power to judge needs strengthening. So the more I work on my inner scales, the less time I have to waste on looking at what others are doing or not doing. And the more I will allow myself to give myself that time. You know, especially if you're someone who is whether you're working or dealing with other people on a daily basis. I deal with different people on a daily basis, and some of the needs can be quite strong. So I have to be clear on my power to judge, to be able to know when I need to take time away. As a past chronic people pleaser, that pattern, that compulsion, that weakness will be there waiting in the wings for a weak moment. So if I don't continually turn inward and strengthen my power to judge, strengthen my scales, keeping them balanced, so then I become more economical in my actions, because I won't make as many mistakes, because I'm going to be, my mind, my thoughts are going to be a lot clearer. I'm going to have I will have a lot more clarity in how I create the thoughts, so I can then create the right thoughts which will create the right energy to help me create that right action to follow through, as opposed to thinking I want to be peaceful but then losing it at the first challenge that comes and faces me. That's clearly not having my power to judge as a strength at this point. It would be one of my weaknesses. So rather than beat myself up over it, I need to pat myself on the back, which takes courage, to be able to say, hey, I've recognized it. Now I need to work on changing it. Because as Brahma Kumaris, we call it checking and changing. And to use our power to judge, we need to check ourselves, we need to check in, to check the balance of our scales, to make sure they're not uneven. Okay, because if there's any stagnation in one area or a blockage in one area, it's going to, in my life, it's going to impact on many other areas of my life. So let me be courageous and look at these blocks and recognize when I'm being triggered by others, that is something that is unhealed within me. So rather than point the finger at them and say, well, they're at fault for upsetting me, I need to turn inward and look at what I need to heal so that I don't remain a hostage to the world around me. When we are faced with daily change that is coming at us at a rapid force, if I don't continually turn in and give myself permission to step away from other people's energies, and that is also my right, especially, like I said, when you're working with and dealing with people on a daily basis. Others may not like it, others may judge you for it, but as long as I know I'm doing it for the higher good of all, not just because I can't cope, that's not using my power to judge. But to be able to recognize that I need to turn inward to recharge and I need to turn upward to plug into the battery pack, the divine energy, the divine source of all energy. Because if I'm too busy reacting out here, I'm not going to be able to use my power to judge accurately, and I will react in a very disempowering way. And the second I react, I've lost my power. I've handed it straight over to the person or situation in front of me. That's not very powerful, is it? That's not the power to judge. So when I'm using my power to judge, I can hear what's needed in the world, and I can contribute to that rather than knowing what's needed intellectually, but I'm so compulsively reactive because I haven't been checking in to make sure that my thoughts and my words and my actions match, that they resonate. So, for example, if I'm thinking I want to be peaceful and I behave violently or angrily, anger is violence. There's many different levels of violence. Then I need to really sit and check in on myself and unplug from the external world just for a little while. And we need to do that again and again and again as a means to strengthen our inner power so that we don't get so affected, so that whatever is happening around us, good, bad, indifferent, we're not going to be so impacted. So if something wonderful happens, I'm not going to be like through the roof excited, and then when something bad happens, I'm going to come crashing down. But instead, it allows me to flow with the waves of life. Okay? What comes up must come down. In a material world, everything comes and goes. So that's what the law of change is, that nothing and no one will remain the same. That everything in the material world is in continual flux. It's continually moving, and at the moment it's moving in a rapid, and it's increasingly, it appears to be increasingly faster and faster. So it's invoking a lot of fear in people, it's invoking a lot of anger in people. And when I'm allowing these emotions to drive my behavior, I'm going to automatically react. I'm I'm not going to be able to respond. I'll be behaving in a way against my own will. I will have no willpower because my power to judge is weak. I know what I must do, but I just can't help myself. Just can't do it because the anger is just taking over. The frustration is just taking over. The resentment or the fear is just taking over. So I need to pull up. I need to apply the brakes several times, many times throughout my day, and just take a breath and just turn inward and just step off that runaway train of negative thoughts, of limiting thoughts, of angry emotions or fearful emotions. We just need to step off for a little while so we can reset. Take a breath. Wipe the slate clean. Start again. So then my power to judge, my clarity of mind becomes clearer. So I'm not constantly trying to, work my way through this mud that's just caked onto my mind, and I just can't see in front of me because that's not powerful, is it? So I need to be able to start getting rid of this mud, start getting rid of those old compulsions, those old reactions, those whole old habitual patterns that I've been feeding for so long due to not working on my inner strengths. It is time in the world we are all being called upon individually to strengthen our inner power. And today it's about the power to judge. So it's a beautiful power to be working on in the midst of all this change. We are being called upon to become more silent inside. So when I become more silent inside, my power to judge will automatically strengthen because I will recognize my strengths and I will recognize my weaknesses, and I will certainly recognize where my thoughts are not meeting my actions and my words and my actions. They're just not matching. And I actually personally, I find it very humbling, because the more I check and change myself, the less I need to worry about what others are doing or not doing. And I can just get on with healing my own story, healing my own world. And that's how I can make a difference in the atmosphere, rather than contribute to the anger by creating more angry thoughts. And we all want some kind of justice in the world, but if I'm continually meting out judgment at everyone else, how is that just? So the only just thing, the only right thing to do is to turn inward and check in on myself and check my own vibration and change what I need to change within myself. So it's like the chains of the dense vibration that we feel in the world are slowly cut one by one as you become lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's how you're going to make a difference in the world, because your vibration is going to be lighter. So we must give ourselves time. So for those who are in isolation, try not to focus on the negative. See it as a positive, because this is a time for you to turn inward and strengthen your own inner power as a means to cope with everything that's going on in the world. Clearly, at the present moment, things are not improving very fast. So let me not bury my head in the sand and then come out swinging and go, what happened? Why didn't anyone tell me? I wasn't told. This isn't fair. And then go straight into the blaming and judging. I would do this, I could do this, but I can't because blah, 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 blah. So the more I turn inward and give myself that love and that peace and that patience and that tolerance to help help me transform my own weaknesses. That's how I can make a difference in the world. That's how I stop being a hostage to everyone else's unhealed stuff. Okay, and that's the power to judge. So I hope you got some benefit from that power. I hope it made sense for you, and I hope you continue to grow within yourself and continue to reconnect with your inner power and continue to recognize your own inner beauty, your own peaceful, powerful, spiritual self. Om Shanti. Let's finish with a meditation and have a great day. So, once again, just checking in with yourself, starting with the breath. Breath is always a good start to just signify the start of you unplugging and plugging into your own inner world. If you want to take it one step further, plugging upward into the source of all energy, the divine battery pack, and just recharge. And when we recharge in this way, when we sit in silence in this way, it is much easier to check in on yourself, to check in on the weaknesses that you may need to transform without force, without that anger or frustration with yourself, without feeling the need to beat yourself up, because you are connected to the source of all energy. And when you are, you always receive help. It may not always look like how you want it to look or feel like how you want it to feel. But trust that you are getting help when you make that effort to unplug from the external world and turn inward. So as you turn inward and sitting in silence in that love for peace for yourself, just gently check in and see where there's any unbalanced areas in your life without condemnation, without judgment, without criticism, without shame. And just breathe out any expectation. This is merely to get to know yourself a little better and to recognize certain areas that will benefit from you turning inward and working on those weaknesses by focusing on your strengths. So just sit, just like a detached observer. You can even imagine that you're sitting in a movie theatre, and to help you detach from those things that you may need to work on, you can just put those things, those emotions, those old beliefs that have been holding you back, you can just put them up on the screen of your mind and just watch them pass, just like the credits at the end of a movie. Just recognize them. That's all. Don't get lost in the sea of weaknesses. Just recognize them. Recognize them as enemy number one that's been holding you back, that's been pulling you back into your old comfort zone. But again, don't judge it. Don't judge this enemy. Don't be aggressive to this enemy. Just observe and recognize this enemy for what it is and how it's been pulling you off your track and pulling you back into old unwanted situations in your mind. And all I want you to do now is just breathe. And every time you exhale, I want you to imagine that you're rubbing off one of those credits on the screen. One of those weaknesses that you've put up on there. I want you to just erase it like a whiteboard. Just wipe it off. And each time returning back to your detached seat as the detached observer in that movie theatre. You don't have to do all of them. If you find that one is enough, rubbing off one is enough, that's perfectly fine. You can go back to this meditation again and again, and each time you can rub off another weakness that you are done with, and you're ready to embrace one of your strengths instead. And you are committed to follow through with the right thought, with the right words and the right actions, to prove to yourself that you are honestly making these changes from within. And these changes will become permanent because you are changing them internally. And no one will be able to mess with you externally. You certainly won't feel the need to sit in judgment of others, because you now recognize your own power